Hi, my name is Lucy Orado, and today we'll be doing a rhetorical analysis of Anjelah Johnson-Reyes' chapter in the book American Like Me. Before I dive into the rhetorical analysis of her chapter, I would like to first give a little background on her because I think it's very important that we know her a little bit before we start. Anjelah Johnson-Reyes was born in San Jose, California, but she currently resides in Los Angeles with her husband. She's a comedian, actress, and music artist. However, she's best known for her character Bonquiqui from Mad TV. She currently has 4 comedy specials and tours the United States for sold-out shows, and is currently part of the board for the organization Unlikely Heroes, which is an organization formed against human trafficking. And before we start the rhetorical analysis, I want to introduce the acronym PASS, which stands for Purpose, Audience, Speaker, and Situation. The purpose of this chapter was to show other people that you don't need to create a different or less authentic version of yourself to demonstrate how in touch you are with your culture. The audience that Johnson is speaking to is people like her who have tried to become someone they're not in order to be more in touch with their culture. The speaker is clearly Anjelah Johnson-Reyes. And the situation is that she has a Latino background that she wished was stronger. This led her to change aspects of herself, as well as try to become part of the wrong crowd to feel the same pride in her culture that others were able to have. So now we're gonna jump into page 1. In this page, she uses 2 different devices. She uses ethos and a simile. Well, for ethos, since she doesn't speak Spanish or has lived in a Mexican area. However, she still celebrates holidays and many of the traditions that come from her Latin background, but still with some American touches. She states, for example, we eat tamales with rice and beans for Christmas, but we have ham and mashed potatoes on the side. We have a family reunion every 2 years with more than 500 people in attendance. Only a Mexican family can pull that off. However, at this reunion, we take part in some good old American tradition things like bingo, potato sack races, bobbing for apples, barbecue, and a game of horseshoes. For her simile, she states that my name is Anjelah Nicole Johnson. Legally, it's spelled Anjelah, which isn't exactly the spicy Latina name I wished I had. You know, like Jasmine Sanchez, Yvette Gonzalez, or really anything that ends with EZ. She compares how her name, Anjelah Johnson, which is legally written as Anjelah, isn't the Latin name she wished she had to other more obvious Latin names, such as Jasmine Sanchez and Yvette Gonzalez. In page 2, her strategy used would be imagery. She talks about her dream of being a chola and all the things that she wished she could do as one, as well as her fantasies for who she wants to be. She mentions how she wanted to have Nike Cortez with creased up Dickies pants held up with an oversized belt buckle that was engraved with her initials, as well as be dating a guy who had tattoos all over his neck and looks like Benjamin Bratt from the movie Blood In, Blood Out. In the 3rd page, she uses metanoia and irony. For metanoia, she talks about how in order to save herself from getting hurt, she needs to be surrounded by tough people, or more specifically ones in a gang. However, she's not good at handling emotional pain, let alone physical pain, because in order to be in a gang, you have to be jumped in. For her irony, she mentions that people during her time would use pagers to receive voicemails. This was a 3-step process that required her to, when she would get the voicemail, she would have to find a landline or pay for a phone, call the number, and then check her voice messages. However, this process wasn't cool, or as she said sarcastically, very gangsta, which was what she was trying to convey as a person during her age. In page 4, she uses illusion. In this page, she talks about how when she would go out, she would wear clothes and outfits from stores like Forever 21 and Contempo Casuals. She also mentions how her and her friends would drive an Impala or Cutlass depending on who was driving that day or not. And in page 5, she continues that allusion by, just like before, mentioning her friend's sheep and how they would go to 7-Eleven to eat stuff when they were going cruising and stuff like that. As well as allusions, she used enumeratio, in which she talks about how after she's done cruising with her friends, she would be dropped off at her neighborhood and list off the things that made it safe and out of risk of being in danger. She quoted, "After we went cruising, we would get dropped off back at home in a safe neighborhood on the other side of town. No drive-bys, no drug deals, just families, senior citizens, and working streetlights, and I resent it. In the other side of town, it was much more dangerous, and it was the opposite of what she just mentioned that was her neighborhood." In page 6, she uses a metaphor. She talks about how whenever her mom was someone that she truly listened to, and no matter how close she was to doing something bad, she'll still quickly come back to her senses or do a U-turn and came back home. And on top of that, she used epilepsis to emphasize how cholas are strong and they don't need to be told what to do or who to be, which Johnson wished she could do. She mentions that she states that aside from just wanting to feel tough and protected, I wanted to be proud of my culture and my heritage, and cholas have that down. Cholas are strong, proud women who know who they are and aren't afraid to show you or tell you to your face. And now we move on to page 7. And finally, she uses a pathos appeal to close off her chapter. She talks about her journey and how she no longer compares herself to others. And at the same time, Johnson talks about how her and her old chola friends still keep in contact and pray for each other every once in a while at church, and along share old pictures to reminisce her childhood. Johnson always makes it a point to invite her friends to her shows when she's home to show them how important they were to her when growing up and during her process and journey in finding herself. That is all I had for you today and my rhetorical analysis. Thank you so much for your time and for listening.